The locker room at California State University was almost empty. Most of the girls had already showered and left, laughing about weekend plans. I, Emma Nguyen, stayed behind longer than usual that Friday evening, sitting on the bench with my head down, trying to catch my breath after one of the toughest practices of the season. Coach Lauren Reynolds was the last person I expected to approach me. She had just finished locking up the equipment room. Her blonde hair was still damp from the light rain that fell during drills, and her blue eyes carried that familiar mix of exhaustion and intensity. At 35, Lauren was one of the youngest head coaches in Division II women's soccer, and she ran our team like a machine. She was respected, she was feared, and she was undeniably magnetic. Emma. Her voice was low and steady as she stopped in front of me. You stayed late again. I looked up, wiping sweat from my forehead. Just wanted to cool down, coach. She studied me for a long second, then did something she had never done before. She sat down right next to me on the bench, so close that our thighs nearly touched. The silence stretched. Then she reached out, and without saying another word, she gently brushed a strand of wet hair away from my face, her fingers lingering on my cheek longer than necessary. My heart slammed against my ribs. Before I could react, Lauren leaned in slowly and pressed her lips against mine. It was soft, hesitant at first but unmistakably real. A real kiss. Not a friendly peck. Not a joke. Her hand slid to the back of my neck, pulling me in just slightly. When she pulled back, her eyes searched mine with something raw and vulnerable I had never seen in her before. I shouldn't have done that, she whispered, voice trembling. But I've been fighting it for months, Emma. And I'm tired of pretending. I sat frozen, lips still tingling, completely speechless. Nothing about our relationship would ever be the same again. That night I barely slept. The kiss replayed in my mind on an endless loop. Coach Lauren Reynolds, the woman I had looked up to, trained under, trusted, had kissed me. And worse, part of me had wanted it to last longer. By Monday morning I was a mess. I arrived at morning practice early, hoping to avoid her, but she was already on the field setting up cones. When our eyes met across the grass, she gave me a small, careful nod like nothing had happened. But I saw the tension in her jaw. She felt it too. Practice was brutal. Lauren pushed us harder than usual, especially me. Every time she corrected my form or shouted my name, my stomach twisted. After the session ended, most girls headed straight to the cafeteria, but I lingered again, pretending to retie my cleats. Lauren waited until the field was clear. Emma, my office. Now. Her tone left no room for argument. Inside her small office, the door clicked shut. Lauren leaned against her desk, arms crossed, looking more conflicted than I had ever seen her. I owe you an explanation, she began. What happened Friday? It was wrong. You're my player. I'm your coach. There are rules, ethics, power dynamics. I know all of that. She exhaled shakily. But the truth is I've been drawn to you since last season. The way you fight for every ball, how quiet you are off the field but how fiercely you lead on it. You're different, Emma. And I tried to ignore it. God, I tried. I finally found my voice. Coach Lauren, I don't know what to say. I'm 21. You're 35. And you're my coach. If anyone finds out. I know, she cut in, eyes pained. I could lose my job. You could lose your scholarship. Your place on the team. Everything. We stood in heavy silence. Then Lauren stepped closer. But tell me one thing honestly, she said softly. When I kissed you, did you want me to stop? My breath caught. I looked into those piercing blue eyes and answered the only truth I had in that moment. No, I whispered. I didn't. That single word changed everything. The weeks that followed were a masterclass in secrecy and emotional chaos. Lauren and I never spoke openly again on campus. During practice, she treated me exactly like every other player, tough, fair, demanding. But after hours, when the facility emptied, stolen moments began. Sometimes it was just 5 minutes in her office. A lingering hug. Her fingers brushing mine. Other times she would text me to meet her at a small park near campus after dark. We talked for hours about her failed marriage, about the pressure she felt as a female coach in a male-dominated system, about my strict Vietnamese parents who still expected me to become a doctor or engineer instead of chasing soccer. I told her things I had never told anyone. How I had always felt different from other girls but buried it deep because my family would never accept it. How my father still called me his good Vietnamese daughter, and how terrified I was of disappointing him. Lauren listened without judgment. And slowly, the emotional wall between us crumbled. One Thursday night in late October, after a big win against our rivals, the team went out to celebrate. I made an excuse to leave early. Lauren had told the assistant coach she needed to review game film. At 11:17 p.m., I knocked softly on her apartment door just off campus. She opened it wearing a simple gray sweater and jeans, hair down. No coach persona. Just Lauren. We barely spoke. She pulled me inside, closed the door, and kissed me like she had been starving for it. This time the kiss was deeper, more desperate. My hands found her waist. Hers cupped my face. We broke apart only when breathing became necessary. "Emma," she said, forehead resting against mine. "This is dangerous." "I know. But I don't want to stop." "Neither do I." That night we didn't cross any physical lines beyond kissing and holding each other. But emotionally we crossed every boundary that still remained. The guilt hit me hardest on Sundays, when I drove home to Garden Grove to have dinner with my parents. My father, Mr. Nguyen, would ask about soccer, about my grades, about whether I was dating any nice boys. My mother watched me too closely, like she could sense something had shifted inside me. I hated lying to them, but every time I thought about telling the truth, fear paralyzed me. Meanwhile, cracks began to form within the team. My best friend on the team, Sophia Alvarez, started noticing things. "You've been weird lately," she said one afternoon in the locker room. "And don't think I haven't seen the way coach looks at you sometimes. Longer than normal." I laughed it off. "You're imagining things, sophomore." But she wasn't convinced. Lauren and I grew more careful but also more attached. She began texting me every night. Good morning messages. Late night voice notes when she couldn't sleep. I saved every single one. By mid-November I realized I was falling in love with her. And that terrified me more than anything. The breaking point came during Thanksgiving break. Most of the team went home. Lauren had no family nearby, and I told my parents I had to stay on campus for extra training sessions before our final games. It was the first time we spent an entire night together. Lauren cooked dinner, pasta and red wine, and for a few hours we pretended we were just two normal women. We laughed. We danced slowly in her living room to old songs. She told me about the dream she had given up when she chose coaching full-time. At one point she looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Emma, you make me feel like I'm 25 again. Like I still have a chance at something real." We fell asleep on her couch, my head on her chest. The next morning everything shattered. My mother called me at 8:12 a.m. "Emma, Mrs. Alvarez just called me." Sophia's mother. "She said Sophia saw you leaving Coach Reynolds' apartment building very late last night." My blood turned to ice. Sophia had seen us. My mother's voice was shaking with barely controlled fury. "Tell me it's not true. Tell me you are not involved with that woman." I couldn't speak. The silence was enough. My mother started crying, then screaming. My father grabbed the phone. "You are coming home right now, Emma. We will fix this. You will not destroy your future over this sickness." That afternoon I drove home in tears. The confrontation with my parents was worse than anything I had imagined. My father called me ungrateful. My mother accused Lauren of grooming me. They threatened to cut off my tuition if I didn't end whatever was happening. I left their house that night and drove straight back to Lauren's apartment, devastated. She held me while I cried. "We have to be more careful," she said quietly. "But I'm not ready to let you go, Emma. Not yet." 2 days later, Sophia cornered me in the locker room. "I didn't tell my mom everything," she said coldly. "But I saw enough." "You and Coach? Are you serious?" "Sophia, please." "No. You're throwing away everything. And she's going to lose her job because of you." Her words cut deep. The team started whispering. Some girls distanced themselves from me. Others gave me dirty looks. The atmosphere turned toxic. Lauren and I tried to keep our relationship alive in secret, but the pressure was crushing us both. Then, in early December, the worst happened. Someone anonymously reported us to the athletic director. The investigation began quietly. Lauren was called into a meeting with the athletic director and the Title IX coordinator. She was asked direct questions about her relationship with me. She denied anything inappropriate, but they didn't believe her completely. I was questioned separately. I lied too, out of fear, out of love, out of desperation. But the damage was spreading. My parents called every day, demanding I come home and transfer schools. My father even threatened to fly up and drag me back to Garden Grove. Lauren started unraveling. The strong, confident coach I knew began to crack under the weight of guilt and fear. One night in her apartment, she broke down completely. "I'm destroying your life, Emma," she sobbed. "You're so young. You have your whole future ahead of you. Soccer. Maybe the national team one day. And I'm the reason you might lose all of it." I held her tightly. "You're not destroying me. I chose this too." But deep down, doubt was growing inside both of us. Christmas break arrived like a temporary relief. I told my parents I was staying on campus again. Instead, Lauren and I rented a small cabin in Big Bear for 5 days, far away from everyone. For those few days, we lived in a fragile bubble. We hiked. We cooked. We talked about a future that felt impossible, moving to another state, starting over where no one knew us. On our last night there, Lauren looked at me across the fire pit. "If it comes down to it, if they force me to choose between my career and you, I will choose you, Emma. But I need you to be sure. Because once we cross this line publicly, there's no going back." I kissed her instead of answering. When we returned to campus in January, the situation had worsened. The athletic director called me in again. This time they had photos, blurry, taken from far away, of Lauren and me hugging outside her apartment at night. They gave me an ultimatum. Admit the relationship and cooperate, or face academic dishonesty charges and lose my scholarship. Lauren was suspended pending the full investigation. The team was in chaos. Sophia had finally told several teammates the full story. Some supported me. Most judged me harshly. My parents arrived unannounced on campus 2 days later. The scene in my dorm was brutal. My father screamed at me in front of other students. My mother cried and begged me to come back to God and family. I had never felt so alone. That night, Lauren called me from her apartment. "Emma, maybe we should end this, before it destroys us both." Her voice was hollow. I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. In the end, the decision was forced upon us. The university concluded its investigation. They could not prove a physical relationship beyond reasonable doubt, but the evidence was strong enough. Lauren was forced to resign to avoid a full scandal. She left California State University quietly in late February. I was allowed to stay but under strict probation. The team atmosphere was unbearable. I lost most of my friends. My parents cut off financial support. I had to take out massive loans and get a part-time job just to survive. Lauren moved back to Oregon where she grew up. We tried to keep the relationship alive long distance for 3 months. But distance, guilt, and trauma slowly killed it. Our final phone call came in May. "I love you, Emma," she said, voice cracking. "But loving me has cost you everything. Your family, your reputation, your peace. And I can't live with that anymore." I begged her not to do this. But she had already made up her mind. "I'm letting you go so you can heal. Maybe one day if we're meant to find each other again." She hung up. I never heard from her again. I graduated the following year with honors, but soccer lost its magic for me. I never tried out for professional teams. The dream died somewhere along the way. Today, years later, I still think about her every single day. Was it worth it? Was real, deep, once-in-a-lifetime love worth losing my family, my reputation, my future in the sport I loved, and ultimately the woman herself? Or was our love just a beautiful, painful mistake that we both paid for with everything we had? That is the question I still cannot answer.